All right. Today I'm joined by Devon Thomas. Hello, Devon. How are you?
Hey Michelle, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. Just a quick introduction for Devon. He's a fellow Google Ads expert and content creator here on YouTube with over 250,000 views. He's also a course creator of the Profitable PPC course with over 100 students, with students in over 27 countries. So he's broadcasting live from Johannesburg, South Africa. That's where he's from. If you notice the accent, but you can fully understand him. He's got a lot of students and people that he's coached throughout the years. So really excited to have this conversation with him today. We are going to be doing a deep dive in how to win with small budgets in 2025 with Google Ads. So if you're watching this and you're a service provider looking to generate leads and you've got a small business and you're looking to squeeze as much as you can out of Google Ads and see what you can do to maximize your return with a small budget, this is definitely the video to watch through. So, Devin, I'm really excited to have you here today. Really wanted to talk about small budgets with Google Ads. What would you define as a small budget with Google Ads?
Oh man, that is a crazy question. I could say that a small budget would be anything from $50 to $100 per day. I've even seen people with like $30 per day. But funny story, when I started off with Google Ads, I started off with a $1 per day budget.
What industry?
That would be web design.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, and were you targeting in the US?
I was definitely not targeting in the US. I
Okay.
was a struggling business owner. I just started out. I didn't know how to get clients. I didn't know how to advertise. I didn't even know I wasn't sure what digital marketing really was. And what I
Mhm.
said is, I just want to give it a shot. So what I did was I only had like $1 a day to spend. So I said, okay, fine. I'm going to spend $1 a day and I'm going to see where this goes, and I literally got leads with $1 per day in Google Ads. Crazy.
Wow, that's amazing. And what year was this?
This was 2017. Don't try this in
Okay.
2024.
Or even 2025. Maybe could you still make it work in Johannesburg with that type of ad budget?
Yeah, I show my students this all the time. And the funny thing is, if you tap into YouTube ads in the USA, you can still get conversions and you can still drive conversions for about $5 per day. That is like the minimum that you can spend. But I mean, if you're a business owner and you're serious about getting leads, you probably don't have 2 or 3 or 4 days to wait to get a lead in. You probably want to get a few leads a day, so
Yeah.
that you can close it and so that you can grow your business.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, in terms of a good small budget to start out with, you're typically recommending like a 50 to $100 to get going in order to get leads. And that also does depend on the industry too, cuz that budget won't cut it in personal injury
Or
law.
legal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
So that's why it's really important to be doing your forecasting and your own like basic research to understand what's the average cost per click in your industry before really tapping your toes in here. Um, I work with a lot of small business advertisers and I get this question that comes up a lot. And is it really possible to achieve a return with a small budget of less than $100 per day?
Well, once again, we need to go back to the fact that we need to see what niche you're operating in. So, a good way to start is to go and check out Google Keyword Planner and just see what the top of page, but low range and high range is for your particular industry. If any of your listeners don't know what Google Keyword Planner is, you can just simply Google it. It's software, it's completely free to access, and that's going to help you really understand what you should be paying per click. And once we figure that out, you then have to look at your industry and you have to look at your expectations. It's not realistic to expect 100 leads per day if you're only spending $10 a day. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or even $100 per day. But if you're spending $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, then things change quite
Yeah.
dramatically. but you always have to base it in reality. So, one thing I always tell people is start off with your starting budget, see what types of results you get. And then after that, you'll build a realistic expectation versus asking Devon or asking this to predict the future and take our crystal ball out and just kind of tell you what it's going to be.
Mhm.
You have to spend the money so you can kind of understand what you're going to get back.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's just really important to understand, yeah, what your average cost per click is. And you can do some forecasting, a little bit of backwards math, assuming you have a certain click through rate, assuming you have a certain conversion rate. This is how many leads you can expect per day. But it's really hard to generate results these days. I like to tell my clients it's the most difficult thing, like in order to, like, you're playing on hard mode at that point when you're operating with such a small budget and you're operating a Google search campaign. This video in particular is just geared towards Google search campaigns. We're not going to be covering display or PMAX. It's just with generating leads through Google search.
Yeah.
And I get this question too, is how can a small budget advertiser compete with large brands? Because as time goes on, we're seeing in the auction insights big brands like Amazon and Target and Walmart that are competing, and this is coming through in our auction insights. So how can we compete against these huge advertisers that have multi-million dollars?
I absolutely love this question because I get it from my students all the time. And what I always say to my students is you don't need 100% of the market. You need 5% of the market. If we look at all of the money being generated in the USA and you took 0.0001% of that money, you would be a billionaire, right? So I think the first thing, and I think how people get hung up on this is like, oh no, Amazon is using like $1 million budget, and this place is using like $1 million budget. I'll never be able to compete. And so they don't. What you need to understand is Google is still quite a democratic place to advertise on. If your click through rates are good, if your landing page is good, if you are getting the types of engagement that Google will look at and say, wow, this advertiser is really respecting people on the search page, you can still rank in the top four. I've even seen some of my students rank number one just with a couple of tweaks to their ad copy, just with a couple of tweaks to their landing page. Because at the end of the day, if you ask any human being, would you like to buy from Amazon, a soulless corporation that doesn't understand you and doesn't really care about you?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Bezos, if you're watching this. Um, or would you like to buy from a small retailer that understands what you're going through? 9 out of 10 people would say, I'd rather buy from the small person who knows exactly what I'm going through, or the small business that knows exactly what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm. I think let's pack down like a couple strategies that we have then, because I think it's really important that, since it to mention that it is very, very possible to compete against these large advertisers. What type of strategies would you recommend in order to compete against them?
Great question. So I think most small businesses that I work with, they think it's to do with your budget and your bidding strategy. And what you really have to do is you have to think about the journey when you're advertising on Google Ads. You need to think about the user journey. So your keywords, most people will choose keywords like doctor or doctor near me, but you can go even more granular than that and you can find those keywords with intent. Now the
Mm-hmm.
best thing about using those keywords are not only are you going to find people that are specifically looking for something, but you're also going to pay much less for your clicks and there's going to be much less competition. So that's number one. Number two is also you have to just write your ad copy in such a way that it pulls somebody towards your ads and
Mm-hmm.
away from the other ads. So, what I always tell my students is this: what used to work for you 10 years ago is not going to work for you right now because there's 40 other companies alongside you on the search page. Back in the days, you only used to be like one of two advertisers. So, obviously, it was easy to get leads and get sales. You got to put a
Mm-hmm.
lot more into your marketing and think about it from a customer's point of view, and then you're going to get a lot more out.
Yeah, it's really important to, you mentioned to repel people. You didn't say the word repel, but I know exactly what you mean. Like you need to write language that's going to attract your ideal customer and repel your people that you don't want to become leads. Because that's not the market that you want to address. You have a very specific audience, an ideal customer persona that you want to attract. So you need to write messaging that appeals to their emotions and agitates their pain in order to get them to click on your ad. It really is about being emotional these days. I don't know, like the last time, like when you were looking at the Google search results page and you're like, wow, all of these ads are just so robotic. Everyone's saying the same darn thing.
Yes.
What can we
Yes.
do to sound different? And I get it. Some industries are super cut and dry. Like just speaking from the experience of working with like bankruptcy attorneys, how can you like write messaging that's going to appeal to your customer? And I figured this out because with working with bankruptcy attorneys, yes, the messaging can be dry, but it's really about appealing to that emotion of,
Yes.
are you afraid of dealing, like, are you tired of dealing with debt? Are you tired of going day by day, getting harassed by creditors and
Yeah.
having people call you telling you you owe them money? Why don't you just start life with a blank slate?
Yeah.
And we'll help you do that. So it's really about agitating that pain point. And it's not so much about colorful language or language that's going to like, some people they try to use like cutesy language that like rhymes and stuff. It can work and with specific brands, but
Yeah.
you have to know like who you're trying to attract, and from there you need to write messaging that's going to attract them. So I really love those strategies. Thanks for sharing. And I, going back to that initial question about how can a small advertiser compete, I love that you said that you don't need to capture the whole market. You just need a small sliver of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and from there, also control uh, the targeting with the location targeting. You can have very tight radius targeting so that you can capture more of your market. And we're talking about with service based businesses, and then from there your impression share can go up, because what happens is with Amazon and all these big advertisers that are spending multi-millions of dollars, their advertising dollars are spread thin across entire states. But
True.
you, as the advertiser, if you're a small business, you typically only want to be attracting business in a specific area. So you
Yeah.
have ad dollars that you can concentrate in an area, versus with Amazon and these other big firms, they're just spreading their ad dollars across. So that's
Yeah.
why typically, if you're seeing that you might be potentially winning in the ad auction, it's because your ad budget's being more concentrated versus being spread across a large area.
Yeah.
um
What I tell my students is, and I've got two great examples of this. I had one student, he kept on getting, he's an apartment locator in Austin, Texas, and he kept on getting people that couldn't afford his apartments that he was finding for them. So I told him a very simple strategy: put your minimum starting fee in the ad copy, so
mhm.
that people know before they click on the ad, oh, it's going to cost me this much if I want to work with you. So that's one of my students. Very easy, and anyone listening to this can pull that off. The second one was a lawyer who does personal injury ads. And we've picked up that every single, I don't know why this is, but everybody says they're the top lawyer in that state.
Mhm.
So when you read the ads, there's like
Yep.
16 people that say top lawyer, top
Top or
lawyer, top
number
lawyer,
one. Yeah.
number one lawyer. All you have to do is just say something different, and then automatically your ad is going to stand out a lot more versus everybody saying they the top lawyer. We can only have one top lawyer, people. Not all of you can be top lawyers.
And let's be real too. I work with personal injury attorneys. Let's just be real with the people that are looking for a settlement with a lawyer. They just want the biggest settlement at the end of the day. So, mentioning what your success rate is, how much have you recovered, what your average payout is for
Yeah.
settlements, like that's going to really open up people's eyes, and they're going to be like, "Wow, they've achieved they've been able to recover over $1 billion. Okay, I probably want to work."
I need to
So
work with
think
these
about,
guys.
yeah, think
Yeah.
about what they want. And then also in that industry, you can also try to appeal to their pain point. Were you injured in a car accident, that a catastrophic car accident that left you, with all these, medical bills, and are you seeking, damages? We can help and get a big settlement for you. That type of, language is going to be really important too, in
Yeah.
order to attract your ideal customer. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and speak to what things do you really need to consider before launching a small budget Google Ads campaign, as people are trying to decide whether they even are I don't want to use the word qualified, but if they're a good fit to use Google Ads. Like, what are things that people need to consider? And in our previous conversation, we talked about, the potential of wasting money with
Yeah.
Google Ads, which is gonna it's gonna have to happen. But
Yeah.
let's first talk about what we need to consider before launching a small budget campaign.
Yeah, so this is a very in depth question, but the main thing it boils down to is where is your ideal customer and what is your ideal customer looking for? So, for example, if you're telling me that your ideal customer is 19 years old, I'm not going to tell you to use Google Ads. I'm going to tell you to use TikTok because that's where all the 19-year-olds are. The second thing that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, and I think this takes a little bit of introspection from a business owner's point of view, is that when you look at your website, do you genuinely feel like somebody would arrive on your website and they would say yes to whatever it is that you're offering? And just be real with yourself. You can do it in the room alone by yourself, but you have to be honest with yourself. Too many business owners go onto Fiverr, they build $100 website. It looks like it's falling apart. The logo looks like it was copy pasted off of another business. All the fonts on the website are different sizes, and somehow they expect that they're going to take this midnight website that they made in like 15 minutes, and they're just going to stick it out there, pump a whole bunch of ads, and then customers will somehow pop out. That's not how advertising works. So, the first thing you need to do is take a really long, hard, deep look at your website. And if you're not sure if it's good enough, you can ask a couple of web design professionals. You can even ask a couple of agencies for their honest opinion. And I would definitely start there because everything but everything depends on how good your website is. If you can get a website with a really good conversion rate, you actually don't need to spend that much money, because for every one customer that your competitor gets, you'll be getting 10 leads. So if you just focus on getting the best website possible, it's going to make advertising so much easier for you.
Yeah, great. So really what it comes down to, just based off of what I heard, it comes down to demand. Is there demand,
Yeah.
given the audience that you're trying to attract? And then the other thing is the being realistic with yourself. And have people actually taken you up on your offers before? If people in without doing advertising haven't taken you up on this offer before, what makes you think that putting money behind it is going to get people to take you up on the offer as well,
Yeah, that
right?
is so important. That is so important. I had a lady, she does augmented reality ads, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, if we look at the search volume in the USA, there's like 180 people in the whole country looking for that type of service. It's just too new to the market. So she was perfect. Her website was good. Everything about it was good, but there was no one actually searching for that particular service. So if
Hmm.
you're launching something brand new to the market, there's this term that we as advertisers use. It's called search volume. And you can look
Hmm.
this up in Keyword Planner. Again, I
Hmm.
promise you this. I'm not trying to put Keyword Planner in every answer, but it's just the natural place to start for beginners is go into Google Keyword Planner and look at how many searches are in your local area. Now, if you're a handyman, an electrician listening to this, you can completely ignore me. This does not apply to you. But if you know that you have something that the market may not have seen yet, it's very important for you to do that research first.
It's very important. Even just Googling some of the basic keyword phrases that you think people would be looking for you on, and just seeing, are there other advertisers going after these keyword phrases or bidding on these? Is there a market for it? And
Yeah.
I like to tell clients and potential clients that it's not bad to have competition. In fact, it's good because you're seeing that someone else is doing it, and it's your opportunity to go in there and sweep in and try to capture your share of the market as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, being realistic. And speaking of being realistic, let's talk about how realistic it is to not waste any money as you're running your own Google ads. Like, is it realistic to expect that you're going to be able to spend money and every single dollar is going to be going to getting leads? Or are you going to just have to expect that it's a rite of passage as an advertiser with Google that you're going to
Yeah.
have to waste some money?
Well, let's think about it in terms of just being realistic. If you write your first book, that book is probably going to suck. If you try and go on your first date, that first date is probably going to suck. You're going to be, and she's going to be smiling and she's trying to tell you there's no cabbage stuck between your teeth and all of that type of stuff. So, no matter what you do for the first time, you're going to suck. And I've got a very big problem with these YouTubers that come out and they profess that, oh, within 3 days, you're going to make $3,000 per day using Google Ads, and I've got the strategy and it's proven and it's going to work for you just from day one. And that doesn't exist, guys. That is just a figment of imagination. Look, we're ad experts. I've been doing this for 7 years. I always tell my students the same thing. At first, it's going to suck. You're going to lose money, but you have to look at it like you're a scientist and we have to get the data in. You cannot make wise decisions unless you have data to back them up. If you say your ad campaign doesn't work after 10 clicks, well, guess what? Nothing works after 10 clicks, right? You can try Facebook ads. They're not going to work for you after 10 clicks. You can try LinkedIn ads. They won't work for you after 10 clicks. You need those 300 to 400 clicks. You need to spend a little bit of money, and then you can sit back and say, okay, it is converting, but my cost per lead is expensive. Or, hey, it's not converting at all. Maybe there's something that I'm not doing that's stopping the client from converting. So it's very important that you spend that money. Now, you might be asking, Devon, if I hire an experienced agency professional, if I hire somebody who's done this before, then surely they'll be able to figure it out and I won't have any wasted budget. Doesn't work that way either. Even somebody who's done this for years will always go out there and test the ad budget and figure out what works and what doesn't work and what really engages your ideal client. And yes, you might get to the result faster, but you're still going to have to spend money. There's no way around that mountain.
Yeah, there's no way around it. And, speaking of the agency topic, you go to a big agency that might have experience in your specific niche. The reality of the fact is they might actually just be having someone junior that never had experience working in your niche that's running your account. So they're
Yeah.
learning on your dime, unfortunately. And if you're typically at the budget of, $100 a day or less, you're probably better off either doing it on your own, learning from a course, YouTube videos or whatever, or just hiring like a freelancer to help guide you and set you up on the fundamentals or maybe even help you run it. But I think at this stage of, if you're in the small budget range that we'd mentioned, probably not quite ready to go on to like a big agency. Of course, every big agency is going to say yes, like, because they want the
Yes.
revenue. But the reality of it is, the people that are running your account might not even be experienced in your area. They might be experienced in running Google Ads, but they might not be experienced in the specific area. So keep that in mind. And then as we talk about like learning about Google Ads, do you recommend to learn from Google, YouTube, paid courses? Where do you, and I know you have a course, so your answer might be come out a little bit biased, but where do you recommend coming from a place that's like not biased,
Okay.
for people to start?
Well, first of all, if you are going to learn Google Ads, please do not go and take the Google courses. you're going to learn a whole bunch of information that is going to be absolutely useless to you. In fact, I've had some people who work for these big Google partner agencies, and the people who run ads, they reach out to me and they say, Devon, we don't know how to optimize ads. We were never taught that. And nobody's ever showed us like how to control our cost per click or our cost per lead. And I'm thinking, how are people trusting you with millions and millions of dollars in ad spend when you don't really know what you're doing? So the problem with Google's learning track is it's free, which is great. You get a certificate, which is awesome, but it doesn't show you how to optimize a campaign, how to take a campaign from losing money to actually making money and being profitable. So I highly recommend that you look at agencies or look at professionals that have been doing this and learn from them. Most of them will offer a course, some of them will offer consulting. And here's the thing, you can take Devon's winning strategy, combine it with Michelle's winning strategy, and combine those two things together to make your own winning strategy. But first, you have to learn the fundamentals. So if I was you, and if I was completely broke, I would go to YouTube and I would find a very good Google Ads course. Darren Taylor has one. There's another guy called Mr. Sam Baldwin. They have some fantastic Google Ads courses, and they're completely free. Now that you understand the fundamentals, you want to just take it a step further and get a paid course, because typically the paid courses are the ones that show you the strategy, what to actually do and when to do it and how to implement all of that fundamental knowledge. And then you have the best of both worlds. You know the fundamentals, you know what strategy to follow, and now you're in a good position to actually start running ads for yourself.
Great, great. Yeah, I actually learned a lot about Google Ads through the Google online, courses. The only challenge was a lot of the quizzes and a lot of the information that it would spew to you was information
Biased.
geared to get you
Yeah.
to spend more in Google Ads. Like, what's the best bidding strategy? Oh, it's always maximize clicks. Don't
Maximize
put a
conversion.
yeah, or maximize conversions, or and don't put a target, a bid cap on it. Don't
Yep.
They don't mention any of those things because they don't want you to use it, but those are options within the platform.
Yeah.
Or they don't tell you that the default keyword match type is broad match. Like, there's like fundamentals that you can learn from it, but it's not going to be enough for you to run a campaign successfully from it.
True.
um, and then, speaking of keywords, how do you prioritize which keywords to target when you are working with small budgets? We talked about a little bit working on keywords with high intent,
Yes.
the lowest of intent or highest of intent, but like lowest funnel type of
Yeah.
keywords. So, could you give me some examples, and also what match types do you recommend if you
Yeah.
are working with really small ad budgets?
That's a great question. All right. So when we talk about a funnel, you got to think about it this way. There are people that are aware that they need your product and service, but they might not need it right now. So let's say you have a guy who's thinking about taking up running, and he's in his mind, he's thinking he's going to run a marathon one day, right? So we could
Hmm.
just target running shoes, and that would be a perfect broad keyword. But remember, when somebody's Googling running shoes, they're not specific about what they want. They're at the beginning of that journey of kind of figuring out what they want. But if we say running shoes for marathon, now we're getting harder now, because we know they want to run a marathon, and we know that running shoes for marathon is something really, really that has a lot of intent behind it. Now we can go a step further and we can say men's running shoes for marathon, and that keyword, it's going to get you a very high click through rate, and it's going to get you a very high conversion rate, because that person knows exactly what they want. And what you can also do is you can add a couple of variations to that as well. So if you know that people with flat feet need a certain type of running shoe, you can say best running shoes for flat feet. And now all of a sudden, you'll get all of that search traffic, because the big retailers, all they're doing is they're just typing in running shoes and they're calling it a day.
Hmm.
All of those little keywords are going to get you far better performance than just chasing after the keywords, those broad surface level keywords that
Get
everybody's
specific.
after. Yeah.
Yes. And I actually have another tip too on top of that is adding you can add intent based keywords even on top of that, meaning
Okay.
buying intent. So buy men's running shoes, men's
Yes.
running shoe prices, men
Yes.
running shoes sale.
Under
Like those.
$500. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So as you're building out your keyword list, you can get very specific around buying intent because people that are actually saying like buy or sale or price, they are looking like they're pretty serious at that
Yeah.
point. But
Yeah.
it's just about if they're saying that they haven't decided on a brand. But if someone's typing in Nike, like buy Nike men's shoes, that's like really hot, especially if you're Nike and you're bidding
Exactly.
on that because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, they have the intent, they know what they want. Let's just give them the ad and
Let's
make it
just do the
really
deal right
easy.
now.
One
Where's
click
my card?
checkout.
I'm taking out my card right now.
Yeah,
Let's do
exactly.
it.
One click checkout type of thing. But yeah, so that's really important. And then, like, as we talk about match types, how would you recommend to go about deciding what match type? Should we use all? Should we just limit it to a certain amount? Should we just go all broad? Where should we go?
Oh, this is my favorite question. This is my absolute favorite question because
Every question I ask is your favorite.
every single live stream I get this question. So this is like one of those. So what I want you to do is I want you to picture kind of like a horizontal line, right? And we have broad match, we have phrase match in the middle, and we have exact match on the right hand side. Now, as you move from broad match towards exact match, what's going to happen is your leads are going to get less, but your quality is going to go up, right? And as you move from exact match to broad match, your leads are going to get more, but your quality is going to go down. Now, there is no right and wrong because I've been doing this for 7 years. So some companies broad match, it's fine. They get leads, they don't care, they're nice and cheap. It's perfectly fine. Some companies use broad match and they get nothing but garbage leads all day long. And then they switch to phrase match, and phrase match is slightly better. But after Google has done its tweaking, phrase match
Mm-hmm.
is starting to act like broad match. So, what I typically tell them is you want to start off with broad and you want to measure your lead quality. When you get a lead, are they specific? Do they know what they want? Are they asking for a job? You got to make sure that you're getting a good quality lead in. And then this goes back to what we said about spending money and testing. If you find that broad does not work for you, you can switch to phrase match for a month. Has to be a month, not 2 days or 2 seconds. It has to be a whole month. And then you have to try that out. Now, obviously, if you're spending a little bit more money, you can go through these quicker. But what you want to do is you want to understand that broad match is not horrible. It's not bad. I've got $7 cost per leads with broad match. It's not a terrible match type, but it might be terrible for your particular niche or your particular business. So you have to test them. That's basically my
I
answer.
love that. And I think if you were to ask me this question maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I would say, oh, broad match is the devil. Don't use it. It's going to waste all your money. But as gone on, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of turning around the corner saying, you know what? Actually, it's not too bad. Just like
Yeah.
you, I've got a campaign right now that's broad match on maximize conversions, bringing in leads anywhere from $6 to $10, where the average sale is like $18,000 for the
Wow.
client. So
That's incredible.
yeah, and he's getting leads for like $10 or less, which is just incredible.
And
We're
why would you
just
want to mess with that? Like, why
Yeah,
would you now take
exactly.
that and
Well,
just do it like on exact match or phrase match? Because all of the experts are telling you to do that. If you have something that's working for you and it's bringing you cheap leads that you can convert, go for that match type.
I would just say that it's because I've been doing it for so long. My brain was wired to just like always just turn away broad match. Broad match is junk. Broad
The
match is
devil.
junk. But I turned a corner pretty much. Actually over the last 2 years, and I'm like, broad match is not that bad. And what you said is spot on. You pretty much said that there's no real right or wrong answer. It really just depends on your niche. Like
Yeah.
if we're going back to personal injury, I would never recommend a client to start out with broad match because it is so expensive. We
Yeah,
got, even if we have a $50,000 budget, that budget is like the equivalent to having like a $3,000 ad budget for like an electrician plumber because the clicks are so
yeah,
expensive and you can waste the budget real fast. Because the problem with broad match too is it will match to competitors, it will
yeah.
match to phone numbers of your competitors,
Yes.
and you're letting Google decide of the actual definition of like how to go about like matching at that point.
Yeah. And
So that's really the challenge. I'd say that you really need to test and learn, but if you are in an industry where you know that there's a ton of competition, you might want to start a little bit more conservative. I
yeah,
actually tend to recommend with smaller budgets going the other way, where it's like I'll start with exact and then
yeah,
start opening that up. So
yeah.
it really just depends on how you want to go about. If you want to learn and learn fast, then broad match is probably the way to go. But if you're like, oh, I need to pinch my wallet and make sure that I'm trying to not waste as much as possible, then maybe starting on the other side is going to be better.
And just to give you guys an idea, when we say expensive clicks, we're talking about a click in the personal injury world. I've had a client that's had just 3 clicks cost him, I think $900. So I think it was
300.
300, 324, and then another one was like 200 and something. So
Yeah,
when
those
we
are enough
say
to give
they're
you a heart
expensive,
attack.
exactly. So you
Yeah.
don't want to be coming into your Google Ads account after a week and you know that, okay, fine, you see you spend $10,000 and you're looking at your keywords and you're going, what are these searches that I'm showing up for? It's just not worth it, guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And actually I beat you on that because I have one of my clients had a CPC of 895 or something.
what? That is
Yes, it was
crazy.
insane, and it's highway robbery. In fact, there's a post on the PPC subreddit that came out today. Someone said they're in the printing industry, like printing posters or something, and they're using maximized conversions. They didn't put a bid limit, and they got billed for a $700 click. And they were like, "I want to do a class action lawsuit against Google because these smart bidding strategies are just a way for Google to like take advantage of people." Unfortunately, we can't see what's allowing Google to, make the CPCs that way. They could say it's the competition. They could say, "Oh, well, we're trying to get you as many conversions." And at that
Yeah,
point in time, we saw, leveraging the smart bidding approach, we were able to get you this because we thought this person was going to convert using
yeah,
maximized conversions.
yeah,
That could just very well be their rationale for charging you that. And there's really no real way around it,
yeah.
unfortunately.
What we need to do with Google is you got to look at the numbers. So in 2024, as of April of 2024, the average CPC for the advertiser has increased by, I think, 13.2%. And that's across the board. And the previous year, it increased by 9%. And the year before that, it increased by 9%, I think it was again. So, one thing you need to understand about Google, and I think a lot of people they don't get this part because it says focus on conversions. And the main thing that you want if you're a business owner is you just want leads. You don't want to have to think about all of this technical stuff. You just want to set your ad up, tell it to focus on getting you leads, and you're going to get leads. But the way that Google words things in the Google Ads dashboard
Yeah.
is so deceiving because
Yeah.
you're choosing to focus on conversions. But what Google says is, aha, we get to charge you whatever we want, whenever we want, and we'll just tell
Hmm.
you it costs that much. You wouldn't go into a grocery store where there's no prices on anything, right? You just walk in, hand them your credit card, and then
And that's
just
kind
try
of
and
what's
walk out.
happening. That's kind of what's
Exactly.
happening with maximized conversions. You're literally walking to a grocery store and then you're taking things off the shelf. And then when you check out, you don't even have a chance to return it. Like it's,
Thank you.
there's no dispute. There's nothing. You're just checking out and you're just blindly handing them the credit card and you're just walking out.
Yeah,
And you
you don't
just
want
paid
to do that.
$900 for a box of macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, definitely. And this is why you hear me and Michelle talk a lot about control. Control is everything because You want to control the ad copy. You want to control where that traffic is going from the ad, like to your website. You want to use a landing page, but you also want to control how much you're paying per click, because ultimately that's going to determine
Your
and
cost
that's
per
going to mean the
lead.
difference
Hmm.
between a really expensive lead and a really cost effective lead for your business.
Yeah. And there are ways to let's talk about that because I think that's really important. How can you control your CPCs?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of things you can do. I would say, if you want to just see a drop in whatever you're paying for leads right now, just swap out your website for a landing page. If you do that one thing, you'll start getting cheaper leads. That doesn't require any technical knowledge whatsoever. It just requires you to make sure that you're sending the traffic to the right place. Another thing you can do to control your CPC cost is prevent, and we alluded to this earlier, but prevent the wrong people from clicking on your ads. Look, if you know there's a certain group of people out there who might be interested in your product or service, but they have no way of affording it, you want to make sure they don't even click to cost you that money in the first place.
Hmm.
So that's very important. And then there's a couple of other things you can do. You can look at your location settings. You can look at the display network and the search network. So what Google will often try and do is they'll try and tell you that the settings are in your best interest, and they're going to bring you so much more clicks on your ads. But
Oh, they'll
in
bring you a lot of
reality,
impressions, but the
there we
impressions mean
go.
nothing.
They're going to bring you a lot of clicks from a lot of people that you don't really want to do business with. So, and that don't
Yeah.
really want to do business with you. So, you have to understand that behind every setting, there's kind of a trap. So, what I tell my students is, whenever you disable a setting and you get this
Hmm.
little yellow warning, that's a good setting. That's like my rule of thumb. Like, if Google warns you that you should be using that setting, it's
It's a
probably
good
a
thing.
you're probably using the right setting. Yeah.
I love that. And I actually want to dive into like the deceptiveness of Google really
Yes.
quickly. It's really important for us to call out, especially as you're a small budget advertiser watching this, to note that the Google Ads UI like interface, the platform that it's built on, is designed to be deceptive in order to get you to spend more, whether it's having these notifications saying like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" or auto apply recommendations.
Limited by
Um,
budget.
yeah, you see limited by budget all the time, and it's just that's just I just see that and I'm just blind to it because I know like I'm not even worried about that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then also when you're trying to set up a Google Ads campaign, it's so hard to find the expert mode because it
Yeah.
like opts you into like the smart
PMAX.
campaign or PMAX now, what with what it is. So it's trying to, and then they'll also make recommendations too on like what your budget should be. Like they'll be like, okay, they'll give you like three tiers and they'll be like, okay, start at $100 a day, 300, and then like 1,000. And then you
Yeah.
go in there and you set it at $1 a day and they're like, this is not enough to generate any conversions, so they'll give you like a warning. But just coming from two Google Ads experts, as you're watching this video, just understand that the platform is designed to get you to spend more and to be very deceptive. As you create a Google search campaign, they're going to automatically put you into broad match. They're going to, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's the
Yeah.
default match type to allow you to match to as many keywords as possible. The settings are going to opt you into search partners and display select
Locations.
your locations. If you don't put a location, it's just going to target the US. And then you wake up in the morning and you've got some leads from South Africa when you're in Los Angeles, like, and you're a dentist and you're like, well, I can't service a client in South Africa unless they want to,
Yeah.
travel all the way over here. So there's so many different things that you need to be wary of because the default settings of Google Ads
Yes.
is typically what you don't want, and you need to make sure you're checking all the boxes in order to make sure that you are tightened up on your campaign and that you're not bleeding money
Yeah.
because of how deceptive it is. Unfortunately, that's what we've come to with the platform.
The way you have to look at this is, you wouldn't say yes to everything in the McDonald's machine, right? When you're ordering, right? So if they say, "Would you like a cheeseburger?" Yes. Would you like fries with that? Yes. Would you like a milkshake? Yes. Would you like some nuggets with that? Yes. Would you like some sauce with that? Yes. Would you like some ice cream with that? Yes. You wouldn't say yes to all of those things. So you got to think about Google Ads like that McDonald's machine where you have to be very selective on what is right for you and your business right now. Google might tell you that you need to spend $1,200 per day just to start, off with business. But if you can't afford that, you're going to be broke in 3 days. Start off with something you can afford and then see what you get. And then you can always adjust your budget and push it up as high as you like once you start getting clients.
I love that McDonald's analogy. And I think like with Google, it's almost like there's like the McDonald's machine like menu that like appears in front of you. Everything looks good and everything's already checked. Your credit
Yes.
card's already in there and they just
Yes.
want you to click the button to just submit and you process the order pretty much.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. It's like sometimes even the settings are written in such a deceptive way to make
Oh,
you think like this is the right thing. Like for targeting, people in or frequently in my location, or people
it
in
sounds the
or
same.
well, yeah, people in or frequently in my location, people in or who showed interest in my location.
Interesting.
If you pick that one as your setting, then it could target people outside of your target area because it could be someone in Australia looking for a dentist in Los Angeles, but you don't want to be attracting someone from Australia looking for a dentist in Los Angeles. So I'm not saying that those settings are always wrong, but typically for small business advertisers in lead gen, that's probably not going to be your best bet. So like you said, treat it like it's a McDonald's menu that's like all served up to you, everything checked, and you have to go in there and uncheck what you don't want. You don't want the McFlurry, you don't want the quarter pounder with cheese. And like whatever, just need to make sure that you're being as selective as possible. And if you have any questions on that, do your own research to decide, whether something is worthwhile or not.
Yeah,
So I love that. Um, Best bid strategy for limited budgets. I think that this kind of ties into the answer that you gave
I
with
agree. Yeah.
keywords and the match type, because there's really no wrong bid strategy to choose. I think like people, they just blanket like watch all these different YouTube videos and everyone's saying maximize conversions, and then like,
Yeah.
okay, 10 people on YouTube said maximize conversions, that's what I'm
So
going to
it must be the
choose.
right one.
Yeah, exactly. So how would you answer that in like a minute? Like what's the best bid strategy?
What I want you to do is, I want you to seriously ask yourself if you even know what the bid strategies do. So
Yeah.
put that research into, if you're going to put in the time, figure out what they actually do, because every bid strategy will spend your money differently.
Yep.
What I genuinely teach my students is, if you don't have the time to put into Google Ads, you're probably better off starting off with maximize clicks, seeing what your average click cost is, and then working it out from there, as long as you have conversion tracking enabled so you can actually see what's happening on the other end. And I typically, if you really have like almost no money and you're spending like less than $20 per day, then manual CPC is just, it's divine. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite bidding strategies to use. But every business is unique. What bidding strategy works for the business next to you is not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily going to translate into you and your unique offer. So always keep that in mind and really take the time to just understand what they do. If you do that, you'll be far better off than 99% of the people around you.
Yeah, and also don't trust everything that you see on YouTube, like or the our PPC subreddit where people are saying certain things about bid strategies. Like there was this one guy that's like really like bullish about how much he hates maximize clicks. He's like, oh, maximized clicks just get you the worst placements, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
It really just depends. I really hate to say
true.
that because it sounds like just an easy answer for people to an easy answer to give to someone who doesn't really understand. But the answer really just is it just depends on the industry that you're in and what your budget is and your starting point.
Yeah, and you have to think about it this way. when somebody comes on and they're complaining about maximize clicks, he could belong to an agency that only specializes in working with painters. So for him, it doesn't work. He's tried it with everyone, all of the painters in his local area, but he hasn't tried it in your niche for your particular business. And you could find that maximize clicks is wildly better for
Yeah.
another business.
In a
And that's what
specific
people
like
don't see.
area, a completely different area.
Exactly. So he
Or
might be an expert. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say or maybe he just sucks at Google Ads. We don't know. We don't know the story.
I love that. Yeah, it's true. It is super true. It's where people go to vent, guys. If you're on the Reddit PPC is where people go who haven't figured out their ads to try and figure out their ads or complain about their ads. The normal ad strategists, the great people that run accounts, they're too busy managing accounts and making money to worry about Reddit and to go on there and complain about something. They are busy making money.
Exactly, exactly. So if someone claims to be an expert, usually that's, complaining about it and has a very strong stance on, something like that, you probably want to take it with a grain of salt because we don't
Yep.
know how good they really are to have that type of opinion. Um So let's talk about the limited by budget notification. We kind of touched on it. Should advertisers really be concerned about it? And what action should they take with this limited by budgets? Because I see it on every single one of my campaigns. And I want to hear from you. What's your opinion? And I'll share mine.
All right. So I'm going to tell you two stories. First story is I worked with a client in the UK. They were spending 13,000 US dollars per day in multiple campaigns. So it's $13,000, $13,000, $13,000 on
Whoa.
display,
Okay.
$13,000 on,
Okay.
it was at the time Gmail, and they were still getting limited by budget, right? So it doesn't matter what level you're on. You're not going to outspend your way and then all of a sudden it's not going to say that. So it's like a false dream. You're going to go from $100 to $500 per day. You're still going to see it. So the first thing you need to understand is it's perfectly normal and most people see it. The second thing that I want to tell you is, and my friend Pamela Wagner, she's got such a beautiful saying. She says, if you have a business and you don't know your numbers, you have an expensive hobby. The real problem is you don't have conversion tracking enabled. You have no clue how much your leads are costing. You have no clue what your advertising outcomes are. So, how are you even going to know if you're making money? And if you don't know how much your leads are costing, if you don't know what your conversion rate is, and if you don't know what your closing rate is, you've got no business talking about increasing your budget. You have to get clear on your numbers first, and then you will understand what budget you need to be at. And that's basically my answer.
That's fantastic. I had a client that reached out to me just maybe a month ago saying that he wanted me to fix the limited by budget notification in his Google Ads account. Like that's all he wanted. He was like, "Michelle, I want to pay you to like get rid of the limited by budget notification." I'm like, "Well, do you have unlimited budget like to, give to Google?" So that it's going back to the deceptiveness of how Google has made their interface to pretty much manipulate advertisers, making them think like, oh, this is a 911 emergency. It says limited by budget. Do I need to be giving like it puts these big questions in your head like, am I even doing this right? Like
Yeah,
limited by budget. I'm being limited? What's going on? But pretty much it's what Google's saying is, hey, you've got room to spend more. And
yeah,
hey, we can spend more of your budget. Like give us more and we'll spend
yeah,
it. But does it make sense to spend more? Because at some point when you're advertising, you're going to hit a point of diminishing return.
yes,
Do the numbers make sense? Just like what you and Pamela Wagner had talked about. Like, does it make sense for you to continue for every is the extra dollar that you're going to put in going to be yielding you anything in return, or are those ad dollars better spent in another place?
yeah,
So I would say, yeah, don't be too concerned about the limited by budget. It's just a notification at the end of the day, and it's really just designed to get advertisers to spend more. um I have another question for you about small businesses and expectations. Is it realistic for a small business to be number one in the search results?
Yeah, so I think it is fairly realistic. You can get there, but you need to understand that um, it is going to take work. And I think a lot of business owners do not want to hear that, right? We are not going to write magic ad copy that's just going to shoot you up there. I kind of find it very similar to SEO, where a lot of people do SEO and they think it's like sort of a free way for you to show up at number one, but they don't
It's not
realize that,
free. You're paying with your time. You're
yeah,
paying with
you're
your
paying
time, or you're
for
paying
your
in a
time.
professional.
Exactly, but I think the false narrative is that somehow you're just going to float all the way above everybody else who's been doing it, and somehow you're just going to end up at number one. Google Ads is kind of the same. Everything that we know, we've learned from years and years of using this platform. And if you apply those things successfully, you definitely have a shot at doing it. Like I said, Google Ads is a very it's very rewarding when you know what you're doing, and it will reward you, right? It's not going to just not show you up there because it doesn't like you. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's going to take work. And at least it'll take you at least 4 to 6 months to see yourself in the top of the page results. And you're probably going to have to work very hard to get to the number one page results, unless like you're one of only three businesses in your industry, or everybody else is using a very outdated way of running ads. Like I constantly see this where we log into somebody's campaign and they're still running like smart ads from like
Hmm.
2015. They've never turned them off.
Expanded text ads. Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. And then it's going to be so easy for you to beat those guys. But if the other people around you know what they're doing, you just have to be better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing is like average position in Google Ads has been long gone. Like
Yeah.
remember when they would show that there was a metric in Google Ads where it's like average position one, two, three. I don't know how
Oh,
far it went. Was it like
yeah.
how far high did it go? Like up to was it
I
up to
only saw
10?
like from eight,
One
I
to
think it was eight
8?
upwards. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I can't remember. But I know that it's been deprecated probably at least like 7 years. So maybe when you were just getting started, it was
Yeah.
probably going away. But the way to measure, like if you're in the top of the results, is absolute top
Top
impression
of
share.
page
Yeah, top
impression
of
share.
page impression share. Absolute top is number one, and then just top of page is top three. So just to see what your average impression share is, you can pull those metrics in and see. But then also note that you don't always have to be number one. And also note that, there are some businesses that just thrive in being in the top three. They don't always have to be number one.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it really just depends on what your bid strategy is. Like if is your goal always to show up in number one, like for is your goal impression share, or is your goal really conversions? Because at the end of the day, you might be able to get cheaper good quality conversions,
Yeah.
like on the third page, not on the third page, on the third position, not on the
Third
third page.
position.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to get anything on the third page. You'll find a dead body on the third page, but you're
Yeah.
probably not gonna be able to. You're not gonna be able to get anything on the third page of Google. Um, and then speaking of to the Google's like advancements of their AI, can you really expect Google's AI to just do the hard work and make, ads just work for you? Like set it up, forget it, and just let Google Ads just do the AI, just manage everything for you.
The the blunt answer to that question is no, you can't. Google Ads is claiming that the AI is there, like it's a 10 out of 10 AI, when reality Google's Ads AI is probably closer to a 5 or 6, and maybe on its best day it'll be a 7 out of 10 AI. So you might be getting these emails from Google saying, "Hey, your ads are underperforming. If you click this auto apply recommendations, our smart AI will go out there and it will just apply all of these smart settings and recommendations that's going to get you more clients." If you go to that Reddit PPC, you will just find people that have been burnt by doing
Mm-hmm.
that. So the one thing you need to understand is that AI will get there eventually. Like I think in 5 or 6 years, it will get there. What Google is trying to do is they're trying to sell their shareholders in on this thing where they tell them that they figured out AI. If you invest in this company, we are future facing, and they're trying to convince you, the advertiser, of the same. The one thing you need to understand is the person who's clicking on your ads is a human. The person
Mm-hmm.
who is going to submit that lead on that website is a human. If you can connect to that human being with empathy and compassion, then you'll be able to write an ad better than any AI ever can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just use a whole bunch of generic AI settings, the next business owner is going to do the same, and the next business owner is going to do the same. And that's how we
Because it's
end up with
easy. Yeah, it's easy. It
exactly.
makes
That's how we
yeah.
end up with top lawyer in California
And
25 times
everything
on the
looks the
search
same.
results.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just honestly, I'll say this. As I do like using ChatGPT. I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie. I think it's a great resource. I just find AI, the artificial intelligence, has just become so much of a buzzword these days. Like everyone's saying it, and
Yes.
it's like, what do you really mean? Or are you just saying it just because you want to sound different?
Or smart. Yeah.
Yeah, or just smart, because that's like where the future is, but everyone's saying it. So everyone's saying we're using AI. Like when I come across other agencies that are, managing Google Ads, are like, we have our own AI stuff. Oh, you're just using ChatGPT. The free version of ChatGPT, I can do that too. So just because you hear the word AI, don't get so like riled up thinking that it's like the secret sauce to success, because the human has to be behind the AI in order to guide the AI to lead you to success. And the
Yeah.
AI itself won't just lead you to success. The humans got to tweak it and then, get the information from it and use it to apply it to your campaign in the best way possible. I mean, I love ChatGPT for very tedious things. Like I had to come up with like zip codes in the Phoenix area, and
Yes.
instead of like going to Google, I just went to ChatGPT. What are all the zip codes in the Phoenix area surrounding, with the 50-mile radius? And it spit it back to me. I just copied and pasted it, put it in Google Ads, boom, without me having to go to
Done and
Google.
dusted.
Like,
I
but
love that.
that's how you use AI to your advantage. Because if you're going to sit there and just ask it to write you ad copy and just copy it word for word, it's and not really prompt it in the right way, it's not going to really give you like the best results. You need to prompt it in a way to get you something that's going to look more human like, rather than like AI written like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's very true. And this is exactly why Performance Max is not working for lead generation right now. Now, I don't want to talk about Performance Max because it's going to be another 3 hour podcast episode. But the reason why it's not working is because those slight variations in why somebody works with you, it's very hard for AI to understand the nuances. Like you could say, here's a lawyer, here's another lawyer. This guy has 50 reviews. This guy has 50 reviews. AI, tell us which one is better. The AI is not going to know. But as a human being, you're going to be able to read those reviews and you're going to say, wow, these reviews sound really genuine and authentic. And it sounds like this guy really cares about his customers. And that's the thing that you're trying to get AI to do. And it's just not there yet. It will be, but right now, it's just not there yet. You have to steer it in the direction you want.
Exactly. So how would you answer this question? How do you win in the world of AI with Google Ads?
I don't know, but I can say this. The only reason why my business exists, the only reason why I have over 100 students is because Google Ads AI is not working for a lot of entrepreneurs now. The only reason why my YouTube channel has almost 500,000 views is because Google Ads AI is not working. So the day that Google Ads AI will serve my customers better, I will gladly stop doing everything that I'm doing and I will be happy. But for the past 7 years, they've been trying to figure this out. They claim that they've sorted it out, but I just keep on getting more and more customers and more people that are fed up of Google Ads, of trying to use their recommended settings. And that's where I currently am. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you right now, Google's version of success is not the same as their client's version of success because their clients are not liking the direction that Google's going in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there was a big PPC conference down here in San Diego. They called the Hero Conference that happened last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but a big topic that came up after seeing the just like the highlights of it was like, where do you think um, freelancers and agencies are going with Google AI becoming better? Of course, we've already talked about how it's not that great right now, but we
Yeah.
do expect it to get really good. So in 10 years, what's the role of you and me? Do you think that we're just going to become like
Dinosaurs.
artifacts in the museum? Or, I have an answer for this too. I just wanted to hear like, what's your thoughts on like the future of Google Ads coaches, consultants, agencies, as things continue to evolve? Let's say 10 years down the line, where do you see this going? Let's say that Google's already uh, perfected the AI to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
Where's our role? Or do you think that we're just going to become dinosaurs in the artifacts in the museum?
I personally think that there will always be a need for a human element somewhere in the system, right?
Yeah.
Just like ChatGTP, it's a very powerful system, but you kind of need to know what you're doing. If you tell it to type out an amazing ad, you have to be smart enough to know that that ad that it's showing you is actually an amazing ad. So the more heavy lifting the AI can do for us, the better, because that means we get to do the really meaningful, creative stuff, the really cool work of just getting the ad campaign nice and tight and locked in, and getting people excited about what it is that we're serving them. So I more than welcome that. However, I do think that there's a lot of fear mongering, and so I don't really. I'm not scared. I'm not like sitting, waking up at night like with sweat on my forehead, going, "Oh my gosh, AI is gonna take everything away from me." I'm really not scared right now. And yourself?
Yeah. I'm not afraid either. I honestly like the way that I view it is yes, there's gonna be it's just gonna make us, because we're already good at what we do, even better.
Yeah,
And then on top of that, just view it as there's always going to be need a pilot to steer the ship. There's
yeah,
always going to be a need for a human element. Or if you just trust AI to do its thing for you, I think that it's going to come to a point where it might do like enough just to get the job done. Just kind of like with PMAX, like it can generate you leads, but like they're probably all coming from your branded terms,
yeah,
but you don't really know. But there's this element of like you needing a human to be there to like tell you, is this, are we going in the right direction? Like, is this, what's the right approach? What's the right mix here? Should we
yeah,
do a mix of demand gen plus YouTube plus search, or should it just be like you're not going to be able to get that level of thinking yet? It's going to come to a point like right now, button pushing and just paying someone to just put the settings in your account. Like I think that's kind of become like long gone.
yep,
Um, so I think as we head into the future, just think about as if you are looking to hire a professional, they're probably going to be more geared for like consulting and guiding you how to use the AI correctly in order to continue to generate you results or continue to get you better results. So
yeah.
I'm not concerned, but at the end of the day, let's just see what happens with this AI, and maybe in some time we'll have another conversation to see where things go.
I'd love to. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Devin, it was such a pleasure having you here. Would you be able to share with our listeners and our viewers where to find you, and maybe even like a 1 minute spiel on your courses and what you have to offer, if anyone here loved what Devin had to share?
Yeah, definitely. So, my main thing, the thing that I'm so into right now, is just helping small business owners figure out Google Ads so they can run their own ads independently. Now, a lot of people have been burnt by agencies. And so I get a lot of people coming to me that have been hurt. So, all that I want to do is I just want to show you how to run your own ads effectively. And that way, if you find somebody you trust, you can hand it over to them. If you don't find somebody you trust, you always know that you kind of understand what's happening in your Google Ads account. Now, if you just want to learn about Google Ads completely free, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's called Neptune Design. Or if you want to take it to the next level and you really want to understand the fundamentals, the strategy, and you want somebody who you can ask, hey, Devon, am I doing the right thing? If you want all of those things, check out my website. It's neptunedesign.co.za, and I'll gladly walk you through the process. We've got a very comprehensive course. And my favorite thing is yesterday, one of my students, she came to me on a coaching call and she said to me, Devon, I got 40 leads in one day. And I think she was spending about $30, and she got 40
Wow.
leads in one day. Obviously in South Africa, but I've got case studies from all over. I've got one client from Netherlands. She's a dog coach. She spent €7 per day, and she got fully booked. Her whole business fully booked out for the rest of the month. She actually had to stop running her ads. So that's the type of stuff that I love, and I just want to help you kind of grow and kind of understand Google Ads. So check me out at those places.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, Devin, and loved having you here. And we will see you in the future. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.